having somebody see you in your glory and in all your potential and wonderful possibility is, for me, in terms of how I coach and for how I have gone through the most transformations in my own life, is the biggest medicine.
Welcome to the Alive and Aligned podcast, a show dedicated to helping you live a life of truth and share your fullest gifts with the world. I'm your host, Pete Byrne, and I'm here to open your mind to new perspectives, to introduce you to some epic humans who are already out there living their deepest truth. So now just grounding in, taking a breath, letting go of anything you're still holding on to from today, and just opening up to receiving this episode now. Let's dive on in. Challenge is a very natural part of this human experience. It's built into the simulation, and yet we can often find ourselves repressing or avoiding or denying the natural challenges that life serves us, instead of being able to step back and see them for what they really are, which is an opportunity to transform, to grow and alchemize into a higher version of ourselves. William Griffin is a philosopher, life coach, and self-actualisation specialist who works predominantly as a sales mentor for coaches, helping them become fully booked without paid ads or social media, which we write a really fun song about in this podcast. After being kicked out of boarding school and struggling with dyslexia and pretty much writing himself off as stupid, he found philosophy at age 16, and he began to change and develop a new philosophical lens in the world. And this empowered him to think outside the box and reimagine the reality that had been created for him by his environment. Now William has dedicated his life to supporting coaches who he believes are the vital change makers and hold the keys to unlocking people's potential. He believes that they are essential for freeing people from the matrix and supporting the collective consciousness awakening of this planet. And that's why he's all in on helping coaches do their thing. We go right down the rabbit hole in this episode and explore a number of different topics, including how Will helps coaches become fully booked without having to use social media or paid ads, including his signature gun to the head strategy. His secret ingredient to inspiring rapid success in others, which I've personally had the pleasure of experiencing firsthand, and how he recently faced a very traumatic and challenging period in his life, and how he used the power of service and the tools that were around him to overcome it. We explore why people tend to fall out of alignment and how to come back into your center more quickly, and how coaching, he believes, is a powerful force for raising the consciousness of the planet. This is a deep and profound, yet hilarious and silly episode with lots of kind of edgy laughs and jokes in there, as Will shares his proper English humor and philosophical approach to surfing and taking on the sometimes scary transitions and challenges that life throws at us. I hope you enjoy the episode. Mr. William Griffin, welcome to the Alive and Aligned podcast.
Wow, we're straight in, are we?
Straight in there.
I am getting paid for this, right?
In goodwill.
Okay, nice. Well, thank you very much for having me.
How was your journey from Uluwatu today?
It was a wonderful journey. I actually spoke to my friend Lynette Allen, our mutual friend Lynette Allen.
Uh-huh.
I was leveraging my time and had a good old catch up with her, which was lovely.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's a good way to, because it's a bit of a journey to go up and down through the different areas of Bali. So to be able to take a cab, like you said, and use those pockets of time actually for chill.
For sure. And I never leave. I never travel. I'm literally a hermit.
This is a very special occasion, is what you're saying.
Basically, yes. Yeah.
Well,
very special occasion. I can't believe I'm not getting paid for it. So, chop.
There's a long black in front of you. I'll get you that.
Thanks. Thank you. This is a great long black. Thank you. It is an Irish one, right?
Sure. Yeah. There's a bit of Bailey's in there for you as well.
The microphone. Thank you for having me on.
How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling good. Feeling very, very good. Feeling very good. Feeling very zen. I had a little meditation before we came on today. Going through quite a lot of shifts in my life at the moment, which I briefly mentioned to you.
Can't wait to dive into that one.
Yeah. But all in all, feeling well. How are you feeling?
Excellent. Yeah. Had a really nice breath work with a client this morning, and
nice.
Really noticing the benefits of like optimizing and intentionally like putting sleep as number one. you know?
Oh, yeah.
Like not eating for a few hours before bed, lights off, blue blockers on, you know, it's just how I'm feeling in my day to day. I notice the difference so much more now.
Do you set an alarm?
I do, but I usually wake up before it.
Good man.
Yeah, so it's kind of one of those ones where I don't know what I don't know till I realize the benefits of like actually
100%.
getting to bed 9 o'clock, 9:30. It's like, yeah, next level.
I've gone through something quite similar as well, actually. I now set a backup alarm, but just a really backup one, so like 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
But if my body needs me to sleep, I allow my body to sleep.
Good man.
Yeah. I kind of wish that I would wake up at 5 a.m. and do that whole 5 a.m. club stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
I love staying awake.
I think we go through different periods in life, which will segue nicely into where you're at. But like, there's times when we're in full yin mode and we want to just, you know, be a tree and hang out, you know. And then there's times that it's like, let's get shit done. You know what I mean? And
Sure.
the universe is pulling us into.
The last time I wanted to be a tree, I'd taken some mushrooms. But yeah, I kind of know what you mean.
Yeah, sure. So a bit of context for the folks back home. Tell us maybe like, first of all, like the elevator 60 to 90 second pitch of who is Mr. William Griffin.
My goodness, that's not fair.
I'll allow you to go over it.
Thank you very much. Who am I? Well, I think I would call myself a philosopher who wears a couple of different hats, but fundamentally, I am a human being on planet Earth in his 587th reincarnation, and who is on a quest to self-actualize. I think that's probably who I am.
Yeah, it's a pretty good like starting point.
Let's
Let's spend the next hour
let's unpack this. Yeah. What other hats are you wearing? What does it mean?
Yeah, 586. How was that one?
No, I just made that up. I just made that up. But yeah.
That's amazing. So tell me a bit about some of these hats that you wear, because that will give us a bit of a window and insight into your journey so far.
Yeah, for sure. So the main thing I do for work is life coaching, and there's two different hats I wear in my life coaching business. The first of them is, which I don't do so much anymore, actually, currently at this phase of hat wearing, which is one-on-one life coaching. Very unniched, typically speaking, almost exclusively with entrepreneurs, actually. And then now, more and more so, I mean, actually every single last client I'm working with now is a coach. So I've become one of those coach for coaches.
Top of the pyramid.
The pyramid scheme. You can't beat them, join them. Come join the cult. I'll be nice to you, I promise. So I became one of them. That was, I cannot tell you how much resistance I had around that. So much resistance. But the short version is, I help coaches become fully booked. The tagline is, I help coaches become fully booked without having to use social media or paid ads. Check me out on IG.
That's a bumper sticker right there.
Yeah, man. That was something that just found me. I never wanted to be a coach for coaches. I found it so cringe and pyramid-y and meta. And but that's where I was getting all my referrals. Yeah. You know, one coach comes to me a couple of years ago and says, "Oh, can you help me?" Helped her, go from basically having no money to making 25 grand in a handful of weeks, and then suddenly, before you know it, she's sending all of her friends to me, and before you know it, I'm a coach for coaches. And that's been a journey. I've been wrestling with that one for a long time, going all in or not.
Yes.
I'll pause there unless you have any more questions. I could talk about that for an hour.
There's many layers to that already. I'll let you continue, and I'll bookmark them for later.
Okay, nice. Where shall I continue?
Philosopher. Tell me about like why you would consider yourself a philosopher. Like, I know, but I want to hear from you.
Well, I think really for me, philosophy changed my life, and it really did.
Because you studied philosophy, didn't you?
I studied philosophy.
There you go.
So
You sound like a philosopher. Like, you should be reading from leather-bound books, kind of thing.
I have many leather-bound books. Yeah. Yeah. So really, philosophy changed my life, and I really mean it changed my life. I went through a relatively traumatic experience when I was 16, which was basically being kicked out of school and having to move back in with my mother. I was at a boarding school, and there's a whole story around that. And I was kicked out for not being clever enough. And I was going through a lot of, I guess, teenage angst, etc. Parents going for divorce, I was quite lost, doing a lot of drugs, I was always quit smoking at school and just quite rebellious and didn't really feel like I fitted in. And then I was kicked out of my school at the age of 16, and I'd been there since I was 9 years old. And that was my home, really. living with my mother, my father wasn't home at all. And so that was a huge shock. And I ended up moving back in with my mother. That was a whole long story. And then having to leave when I was 17. I love my mother. She won't be watching this, so it's all good. But I love her. She's amazing. But just living with her was just impossible. Yeah. You know, she had gone through like a mental breakdown and bits and pieces, most likely. It was torturous living there. So I moved out when I was 17 and moved to various different schools. And I was so fucking lucky that I managed to go to this one school. And I just had this incredible teacher. I remember when I went there, it was a foreign school. It was an exchange school, so it was for foreign students, foreign nationals who wanted to go to English university and get their A-levels, so the age of 17 to 18. And I went there. I think I was the only English person there. And she gave me a list of subjects, and she just said, "What subject do you want to learn? You get to choose 3." And I just saw this word philosophy, and I was like, "Yeah, all right, that sounds cool." Changed my life, and I got taught philosophy 101. I was also quite into smoking marijuana at the time, and so she and I would just have these amazing conversations, and she was very encouraging. And I went from, because I'm dyslexic, and I went from thinking that I wasn't clever to being kicked out of school for not being clever enough, to then finding a subject which I excelled in, plus was really encouraged. And encouragement is a recurring theme in my life, and even in my coaching. For me, encouragement has been the medicine that transformed my life. And so she was giving me A's for my homeworks where they weren't A's, I would imagine, but I believed her. And I just this thirst for philosophy just, you know, arose within me. And, you know, I'd fall asleep listening to philosophy podcasts and da-da-da-da. And then I applied for university and got in. When I got in, my mother didn't believe me. Just to give you an idea of the journey I had to go on academically.
Sure, yeah.
And then ended up getting 2 degrees in philosophy, one in philosophy of psychiatry, which was that was fucking hard. That was hard. But I got good results, and it was a huge personal growth journey for me, because it made me realize I wasn't stupid, and I thought, okay, if at King's College University can give me the grade they gave me,
must be doing something right.
I was like, I can play in the academic arena now. Yeah. Cool. And it gave me this deeper sense of confidence. But philosophy has completely changed my life. And the reason why I say I'm a philosopher is because that was a huge turning point in my life, number one. Like, it really was. Not just because it enabled me to, or I said allowed me to, it gave me a vehicle, I should say, which transformed myself, my identity of who I was in terms of being intelligent, not intelligent. But it opened up a whole new Pandora's box of just going, what the fuck is all this? Who am I? Why am I here? What is this game?
Yeah. The whole point is to ask questions,
right,
of the things that we take for granted.
100%. So from the age of 16, smoking a lot of weed, one-on-one philosophy, listening to all these podcasts, I was like, what's going on? Questioning everything. And so the reason why I say I'm a philosopher is because, you know, one way to define philosophy is, how should I live? And I'm still pursuing that one. And it's taking me on quite an interesting journey, which has led me to Bali, which has led me to you. Good
yeah.
So fundamentally, the one thing that is unchanging in my identity is I'm a philosopher. Another way to look at that is I'm a man pursuing self-actualisation. And coaching and working with coaches and all the other things have just been an extension of that pursuit.
Yes.
Does that answer your question?
Perfectly.
No. No.
I love that. There's a concept that I was listening to an audiobook called The Art of Possibility. I don't know if you've heard of Benjamin and Rosalie Zander. He's the conductor of the Boston Philharmonic, and she's a licensed psychotherapist for many years.
Nice.
And they combine personal development with like his experiences in like as a conductor, basically, like managing a room, managing all these musicians. But one of the things he talks about is giving the A. So seeing the potential in someone and like treating them with that, like giving, like awarding them an A and seeing like as if they've already gotten it, you know? So like that you were saying with that philosophy teacher, like, you know, even if you necessarily weren't earning the A yet, the level that you were showing up at or putting in, and her seeing that in you is what ultimately maybe fosters that. or give space for that to come, because it removes the limitations to your potential. It's like, well, I can get an A. Wow.
Thank you.
Changes the story.
100%.
Yeah.
And if you think, I mean, I work with entrepreneurs. Almost every single last client I've ever had has been an entrepreneur. And, entrepreneurship, as I'm sure you know, as you definitely know, is, anything is 80% mindset, if not more.
Mm-hmm.
And, a big part of the mindset is the limitations in our thinking, whether that's typically speaking related to our self-image and our self-identity. And having somebody see you in your glory and in all your potential and wonderful possibility is, for me, in terms of how I coach and for how I have gone through the most transformations in my own life, is the biggest medicine. It cuts straight through. It just cuts straight through all the limitation. It's like, no, I'm being seen. And encouragement is the medicine of being seen. It's one of the ways.
And just to give some backup to that, like that's something that, because back in, early, it was end of 2020, started 21, when I was really starting off the coaching business, and I'd, done the degree and all the certificate and all that kind of thing. And, I received some support from you at the time, and I can just, from being in that.
Still haven't got paid for it.
Yeah. It's all accruing, right?
Yeah,
it's vested. Okay.
Yeah.
So like experiencing that, that level of just like positive reinforcement, just consistently, all right, let's go again. You got this. You can fucking do it. And just like hearing that, for me at least, I believe counteracted all the parts of me that were trying to keep me in safety in what I knew. In the, it's not going to work. You're going to piss people off. They're going to think you're this. They're going to, and it was just like that continuous, like, hey, I believe in you. You got this, and it worked. Like it fucking worked. And so I have, it's no surprise to me why you've landed in that position where people who are the ones that are going out to potentially try and change, inspire others' lives, they also need someone in their corner. And I believe that giving the A, that seeding that encouragement and possibility in someone is probably one of the secret sauce, whether you're aware of it or not, of what you do. It's a really profound part of that experience, I think.
Thank you.
Good on you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
And
as you would say.
Yeah, thank you. And one thing that was just coming through for me is just how, and this is something that I was considering as well before I came on here, because I appreciate the podcast is about, being aligned and alive.
Absolutely.
And, I think I go through moments of being aligned.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always alive. And I'm always going through shifts. I'm going through an interesting shift right now. And I think whenever, I think the most important thing is I don't want to come across, and I see this sometimes when when you're on a podcast, it's kind of like, I've been on a podcast. I'm being invited on a podcast. That means I need to come in swinging my dick and showing my shiny medals and trophies.
In HD today.
In HD. But actually, I think it's much more interesting to kind of have a look at all the areas where no, that isn't what I was going to say. What I was going to say was I'm also entirely aware of all my shortcomings and where I have so much more work to do.
Yes.
Oh my dear Lord.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like, as Socrates says, wise man knows that he knows nothing. And I think that the more I step into the self-actualization path, the more I realize, oh my dear Lord, there's a whole like breath work, and I've got this trauma and da-da-da. Like there's so much more to excavate.
Yeah.
But coming back full circle, when I look at you, I see you as such a beautiful man in terms of sitting in that chair, in terms of how you can sit there with such integrity. I mean, I hope you know this, because when I think of somebody who is aligned and alive, you're an example that comes to my mind. So well done you.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for being the shining example that you are. I appreciate you deeply.
Receiving. Thank you.
My
Feels
pleasure.
good. Yeah.
It's funny having the cameras. We can talk about the cameras.
Hey, cameras.
It's funny having them. It's just like, how's my hair?
Leave us alone. We're having a moment here, guys. Fucking hell.
Yeah.
Some decorum.
There's strippers and all sorts of things around. I didn't realise we were in a sex dungeon. It's like on the way in here, I was like,
that's the secret to being alive and aligned.
I've never ever been reminded of Pulp Fiction scenes until I walked into this office. I have no idea. I had no idea that you were naked down there as well.
Yeah, right.
It's wonderful.
You learned something new.
You glorious human being.
Yeah, it's how to be alive and aligned,
Cheers.
Cheers, mate. Let's not take away from the depth of that moment by descending too much into comic relief. But
sure.
One point I wanted to make before we dive into all of your shortcomings is
Yes.
is this concept of something that I've been kind of mulling on recently. I've been creating like these diagrams. I got all these mad diagrams of like how to display self-worth, or like the different types of personality traits, and it's for another day. But the most simple example of way of describing this, something that landed for me that really changed my life, okay? From someone who believed that I needed to do things right and be good at things in order to feel worthy. And so it's like on the right-hand side here, my right hand is my self-worth, and I am enough, I'm worthy, or not enough, not worthy, whatever it is. On the left hand, this is like my talent, my ability, you know, what I'm good at, okay? So I could try to do things, or I could look at myself in a situation like, let's say, take coaching, you know, someone who's starting out coaching, we'll say, or in a business, and they can't sign anyone up. They don't get any clients, or they get a client and then they fuck it up. And they're like, what I think the big issue is people confusing it with the right hand, going, wow, this means I'm not worthy, or it's activating these self-worth questions or wounds that they have, okay? Whereas if we can distinguish the two, that they're totally different things. Like, you can be worthy and also be shit, you know? Like, but the shitness is not a reflection of like your, you know, you being validated as a human, you know, like you're entitled to your needs, you're all these things. And at the same time, you got to put in the work and you got to fail to get good, you know? So recognizing that as a distinct split, I think allows the space for failure and allows us to be human and have shortcomings, and therefore like step into that and actually celebrate them, instead of it reflecting our self-worth and then needing to close off and not want to step into that growth.
I agree. I agree. I think when it comes to coaching in particular, the mind just gets in the way. You know, I developed this thing. Have I ever told you about gun to the head marketing?
Yes, it's great.
So I developed this strategy. I now call it a strategy because it's just a cool name. But one of my friends, she came up to me, this is probably about 2.5 years ago, and she's like, I need some clients. What do I need to do? And she said, I'm really confused. You know, one of my friends said, start up a Facebook group and get clients that way. Another of my friends, I think I should do this one. It's starting an ebook and da-da-da-da. But I'm really fucking lost and confused. What the fuck do I do? And I just said, you know what to do. She's like, you facetious bastard. No, I don't. Like, no, I don't. And I said, well, you do. And I said, what are you talking about? And I said, well, look, if I were to put a gun to your head right now and say you need to create 3 sales conversations by the end of the day, would you be able to? And she looked at me and goes, bugger, you're right. And she knew it. And the idea is that actually you would be able to. If you have that sense of urgency, it cuts through all the limitations.
Yes.
And what would occur is you'll probably do 3 things. The first thing is you would write a list of all the people that you know that would benefit from working with you. Boom. Yeah. Number 2, a list of all the people that you know who know people that benefit from working with you. And then number 3, you'd write a list of, well, where do people hang out that would benefit from working with me, online and offline? Yeah. Suddenly when you've done that, if you really slow down in that exercise, you might have a list of 50 people to go and get inside a conversation with. It really can be that simple. And I quite like to use the gun to the head metaphor to cut through the limitations of one's mind.
Fears,
because you know, it goes back to the idea of Napoleon Hill is a personal growth philosopher I studied for a long time. I was very into him. And in Think and Grow Rich, his first of his, I think, 18 principles or 13 principles is have a burning desire. And he designed, you know, these are the 18 or 13 principles to achieve any goal that you desire. And the first one is have a burning desire. And the way that he defined a burning desire was want something to such a degree that you will do nothing, you will stop at nothing to achieve that end. And the metaphor he uses is that example of burning your ships. You know,
burn the boats, yeah.
Burn the boats. Which comes from, I think, when the Spanish or whoever they were when invaded the Aztecs, there was only about 500 of them and, you know, 10,000, 100,000 Aztecs. And whoever it was, I like to say Cortez, probably Cortez, I have no idea who he was. You know, he said, right, they've got a lot of gold here, we need to take them on. And, you know, his soldiers looked at him and said, what the fuck are you on about? There's 500 of them, these savage Aztecs, what are you talking about? And there's no way we're going to fight them. And so what he did is he just burned all of his ships. So there was no way for them to escape. So they had to fight their way out. And actually, I think, that was such a profound insight, I think, from Napoleon Hill. you know, and it's a gun to the head marketing. Is riffing
Modern
off
day
that idea.
reinvention, yeah.
Yes, remixing the Pennyhurst wisdom.
Totally. It's like if we think of it in terms of our need, like our need to survive, because really what it is we've got on the left hand side, we've got like the level of let's say rejection we're willing to face, okay, and on the right hand side we have our need for abundance. You know, so if the right hand side is lower than the left hand side, if our fear of rejection is exceeding our desire for, you know, abundance, or maybe even fear of, you know, being not having money, we'll say, flip that on its head. So the fear of rejection is actually higher than this, because I know I can call my mom and she's going to wire me money if I need, or I know I can go back to that old job I used to work. But if there's the decision made that there's no fucking way I'm not going to make this work, okay, or there's some other driver, which I'll get to in a sec, but if there's another driver, basically what we want to do is we want to, a lot of people try to break down the fear, but basically what that's doing is it's stacking the fear of survival. Like gun to the head is saying, if you don't do this, you will die. And it supersedes the fear of being rejected. Because when someone is in a dark place and they need to survive, they'll do anything. Like you've seen Saw, you know.
Sure.
But you know what I mean? It's like...
I've met smackheads before.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's like recognizing that. And this brings me to a really interesting thing, which I'd love to hear your opinion on. I did a solo episode. It hasn't come out yet, but it's basically about this idea of... actually, no, it's a slightly different topic. So this is great. This is exclusive, brand new, okay? Why is it that some people are so fucking successful and they have this intense drive to succeed?
Neurosis.
Yes.
Probably.
Yeah, but the thing is that I believe that there's some kind of, and it usually tends to be true when we strip back the layers with personal development work after, when they've reached the pinnacle and they've made the money and they're like, well, fuck, how do I turn this thing off? It's basically like this rocket jet fuel pack that's strapped inside, that's driving them forward, that's like smashing them through the fears, okay? It's superseding those fears. But it's been driven by this deep desire to be validated or seen or worthy or whatever, usually from some kind of deep childhood wound, okay? There's a need to prove self to the father. There's a need to be loved and accepted by the mother, this kind of thing. That will help people to, because otherwise if you're just chilling and you're just happy and you're just like, I got everything I need, why would we face the massive fear of rejection? There's no benefit.
Sure.
You
there
know?
is some sort of neurosis behind it.
Totally. So it's that, like, at least my theory is that there's a deeper something driving the ship.
For sure.
And often the thing that actually people can leverage is like, this is a great thing. Like, I don't want to lose that because then I might lose my drive. But then it actually can end up causing lots of problems as well.
I think you're right. And if you have a look at entrepreneurships, you know, very often entrepreneurship, you know, a lot of entrepreneurs, they didn't do very well at school. They were rebellious to some degree. And maybe underneath that, there's some sort of neurosis driving it. Certainly. That's certainly true within me. I've probably got multiple pieces of neurosis all stacked on top of each other, driving me.
Let's talk about them. No, okay.
I'm paying for the session. Now. Doctor, heal me. Well, it all started when I was
Lie
5.
down there, we'll have a look. Yeah.
Yeah. Not the belt, Papa.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, where do I begin? Is there a direct question you have there?
So the direct question is, and it was something we briefly touched on before, because, you know, there are many routes we go down, and as you said, people like to come in with their shiny medals, but
yes,
what I also love to hear is the humanness and the willingness for someone to be potentially vulnerable or just real with where they're at. So I would love to hear, like, in your journey to full alignment and your full self, what's the current period you're in? Like, how would you define that period, or title the current period of your life that you're in, and what are some of the qualities of that period?
Wow. Thank you. Well, I guess I'm in stage 2 of a phase. Stage 1 of that phase occurred about 5 months ago, when I went through quite a traumatic experience when my little cat dog died. Which is a really fucking huge trauma in my life. So,
can I just give some context for cat dog?
Yes.
Like, this dog, or cat as it's called, brought, like, the smallest little thing brought so much fucking joy to every single person that encountered it. Like, literally, like a being of love and light, like just on another level. And yeah, there was a very traumatic experience around that.
Well, it was, and I didn't realize it was trauma. So a lot occurred. So I went through this phase. So basically, I had this lovely little dog, Chihuahua, very manly little dog. It just came into my life by mistake. You know, and she was a pure soul. So she was a type of dog that, you know, people would be walking past having an argument. They would see her, just be mesmerized, and have to just look at her. And she was just a very special creature, and she brought a lot of love into my life. And I think a lot of my healing that I'm still doing, and this is something that a lot of my coaches reflect back to me, is a lot of the work that I still get to do in this lifetime, should we say, is around healing my heart. And so she was this symbol of pure love that was in my life for about 3 years, and was quite wonderful. And just one day I was just having a cup of coffee, and a pit bull came out of nowhere and just killed her, and she died in my arms a little bit later on. It was just, you know, and there's a lot of things that are occurring in that moment. I just got a new relationship. I just rescued 4 puppies that are in my house. And my girlfriend started moving in with me. It's a tiny little house. Everything stacking on top of each other, making shifts. And then the cat dying. It was like something shifted. Now in hindsight, I understand trauma deeper. Because when you go through a traumatic experience, your world changes. You change. Things will never be the same again. And I didn't allow myself to really fully realize that it was a trauma. Yeah, man, I was fucking derailed, dude. Like, I was really derailed.
Yeah.
And I mean, to give you an idea, I lost myself. Like, I would find and I buried it. And one of my patterns is to bury even now I could cry. Like, I actually could cry thinking about it, which is interesting.
Yeah.
But I'm very good at kind of like not allowing that to come through unless I'm in breath work. I actually have tears coming to my eyes right now. This is going to be a good little clip for you if I start crying. William Griffin gets raw and emotional. Yeah, man, it really affected me. But I didn't know it was affecting me. So it was almost like this secret thing that affected me. So whenever I'd meet somebody, I'd be like, yeah, the cat died, da-da-da.
Yeah.
But I would never be reliving it or anything like that. I really just ignored it and just tried to get on with my life. Yes. And then other things were in my life. And, you know, my central nervous system had nothing to latch onto. You know, like a lot of my key friends left, Bali and da-da-da-da, and new things in my life, dogs waking me up, 4 dogs in my house. Anyway, so it was quite a big thing. You know, to give you an idea of where I was at, you know, I was kind of deteriorating, I guess, in a way. And I decided, you know, I deleted a new project for my business. I just literally deleted it and put it in my trash folder on my computer. I would find myself driving around, you know, where I live, and just wanting to burst out crying for no reason. Yeah. And I felt this deep sense of being lost. And it wasn't until a friend of mine goes, hey man, you know you went through a trauma, and I isolated myself. Sure, yeah. Which doesn't, you know, apparently that's classic trauma response. I had no idea. So this is quite a big thing. And then it wasn't until a friend of mine said, you know, that's traumatic, that I was like, oh fuck. And then it took me about 4 weeks of that in the back of my mind to fully realize that. And then he said, you know, isolating yourself is a byproduct of trauma and da-da-da. And I stopped taking on clients. I was just serving the clients that I had. You know, there's this, you know, Rich Litvin, one of my mentors, said, I can't remember the way he described it, but he says, he was talking about, he went through quite a dark phase in his life, but he was still able to show up in his fullest power when he's serving his clients. Yeah. And he had a really cool name for it, which I wish I could remember now, but I've forgotten, but insert really cool name here below. Yeah. You have a researcher to go and research that for us, don't you? So I could do that, but I wasn't taking any more clients on. I wasn't doing anything, and I was like, "Fuck, maybe I shouldn't be doing this." I was questioning coaching. I was questioning everything. Like I was grounded. If you were to meet me, you wouldn't have known. I appreciate this is a long intro into where I'm at.
I did meet you, and we had a nice morning.
We did,
and we talked about some great things.
Yes.
But there was that piece for me that was like interesting.
Yeah,
noticing that it was more of an informational connection to the events as opposed to the full allowing of the embodiment.
For sure. Yeah. I didn't know what to do, and I you know, I had lots of responsibilities and bits and pieces, and so yeah, man. Anyway, so I mean, to give you an idea, like, I stopped taking on clients. I wasn't in the energy to go and create clients. I stopped taking on clients. I stopped my business. And I really started questioning everything, and I wasn't in my power. I was just lost. I didn't know how to describe it. I was like myself, but to the side in the shadow realms, and not really knowing what to do. And then, given the fact that I said to myself, it didn't help because I then just went in entangled in my mind. Anyway, And I managed to get out of it. And it was so beautiful how I managed to get out of it. I ended up helping a friend with his business for a week. And that involved me speaking to men that had just gone through heartache. And I spoke to who are lost, just distraught because they just had their hearts broken. And so I ended up speaking to about, I don't know, maybe 5 to 8 men. And from the Monday to the Friday, I transformed. And the reason why I transformed is because I had a whole week, essentially, of just being in service. And being in service, getting into alignment and serving people and just coaching these guys completely transformed my energy. And lesson number 1 for me was, and I think this is a universal lesson, I think, that we are hardwired to serve. And I'm so glad that I was given the opportunity to come back to this lesson, experientially, from being derailed for such a long time. You know, no matter what one's feeling, no matter how low vibration one is feeling, if you can put yourself in the vibration of serving authentically, it fucking gets you out of it. And it really transformed me. I was so grateful for that experience. And then I started getting back. But so I just teeing up this soliloquy, part 1, with the backstory is I really came out of alignment, due to trauma. So where am I now? I'm back in alignment, but I'm fine-tuning things. So I'm back creating clients, I'm back coaching and all bits and pieces, but I had another opportunity to realign. And I actually just completed my relationship with my girlfriend. And I think one of the insights for me with that was I knew deep down we had a beautiful conscious uncoupling, which is the second. I've been lucky enough to have 2 conscious uncouplings in my career as a womanizer. So that was really, really beautiful. And what was really interesting for me is, and the lesson I've taken from this, I knew deep down that I wasn't in the right relationship. And I didn't I held on. And actually, because I held on to something that fundamentally wasn't in alignment, there are things that occur that are out of alignment as a knock-on effect of that, right? Yeah. By virtue of being out of alignment, you attract more unalignment. And it wasn't until I had what I consider a sign from God or the universe. I woke up and there was a snake in my room and all sorts of things. It's a long story, I won't go into it, but it was quite profound. And I saw it as a spiritual sign, for sure, that I realized, okay, I need to complete this relationship and actually move house and other bits and pieces. So I completed that relationship, and that has changed something in my energy. And the deep lesson for me is, and what occurred for me was, okay, where else am I not listening deeply to that voice of truth and alignment? And I knew it was true, but why didn't I listen? And the lesson for me is when I listened and I acted. So when the snake came, I saw it as an alarm bell from the universe going, fucking wake up, you're meant to move house and you're meant to complete this relationship. It doesn't matter why I interpreted that, but I knew it. Within 3 days, I'd done both, moved house and changed my relationship. And what was interesting is when I made those decisions, it was so curious to me to see how the universe just opened up other timelines of alignment and abundance in my life from making decisions from a place of alignment. And I know your podcast is Aligned and Alive, and I'm certainly fine-tuning more and more and more what it means for me to be aligned. And I'm so grateful because sometimes the best lessons occur when we go off, really derail, and it goes back to that age-old saying, you have to be lost to find yourself. And so in many ways in the past 4 or 5 months I've been lost, whether it be in a relationship or going through trauma or whatever it might be. And what I'm very, very pleased, I should say, what I'm very grateful for is a deeper understanding of actually it's quite simple to find alignment. We just make it fucking complicated. And I say we. I'll talk from me.
Yeah.
I make it complicated as fuck.
Yeah.
I have a mind that loves to overcomplicate things. But actually it's really fucking simple. And I'm so grateful because coming back to that and making decisions in alignment, I've seen the fruits of acting from that place. And so what I get to do now, I guess what we all get to do, but what I'm getting to do now is really tuning in and questioning, okay, well, am I out of alignment anywhere else? You know, I only completed my relationship with my lovely ex-girlfriend, Milena, 4 days ago. So now I'm just waking up, and so I'm seeing my reality shift.
Yes.
And so now I'm going, well, where else am I out of alignment? And I'm still fine-tuning with this. So it's a never-ending process, I guess. That was a long-winded answer.
That was great. Can I'd love to summarize that in song form.
Okay.
So you saw our show recently. There's
Yeah, it's a great show.
There's a song in it called Lady Life.
Nice.
It pretty much just sums up that. I'll just give an abridged version.
Please.
Life is a lady, she moves in mysterious ways. Her whispers hold the secrets to your fate. Listen to her closely, and she'll be soft and kind, but she'll punish you if you ignore the signs. I'll just get to the end. 'Cause I am here to tell you on Lady Life's behalf, stay humble as you journey on your path.
And smell grass.
You'll never be a master, there's always more to learn. So be humble and your true self will return.
Woo!
There you go.
Dude, by the way, not only that was beautiful, but what an epic show. I haven't high-fived you in the flesh. It's all been virtual. So good. So good.
You enjoyed
so
it.
good. I really enjoyed that. Well done. Bravo.
Thank you.
Bravo.
Thank you. So I love that as a little like musical summary of that epic tale of like falling out of the slipstream. And then what's interesting to me is it's like it's not even necessarily about like always being in alignment, but it's catching ourselves when we're out and being able to like notice ourselves, and then how easily can we come back to that center,
For sure.
Yeah.
I have a question for you.
Please, yeah, talk to me.
Because I see you as a man that is living an extremely aligned life. And I have a story that I'm telling myself around how to stay in alignment. I have a question for you, which is the questioner has become the questioner.
Yeah, the role reversal here, yeah.
Which is how do you feel? Why do you feel people step out of alignment? And is there some sort of story that you tell yourself to stay in alignment?
Okay, so I love to use like metaphors as an example. So imagine in each area of our life we've got a box of limiting beliefs, fears, traumas, emotions that we haven't tapped into. So like business is one, money is one, like romantic relating or intimacy is one, friendship is one, creativity is one, you know what I mean, or different forms. Within that I'm a great singer but I can't dance. That, that's a limiting belief. And in each box we've got a different set of all this stuff that we've got backed up. And so what pulls us out of alignment is when our attachment to the old, whatever one we choose in that moment, the old limiting belief or story or trauma or emotion, when that overwhelms us to the point that we forget who we are. So it almost like we're here in our center and it pulls us away and we believe it. We believe it's true and we make it more important than that alignment to true self. So the reason why I'm saying it with these boxes is that, like, you could have someone who's an entrepreneur that has crushed all their limiting beliefs and has tons of cash, you know, but then they step into like following purpose, for instance, or creativity or romantic relating maybe for the first time, and it opens up a whole new box of things, okay, that have different charge, and sometimes charge from a very, very long time ago, you know what I mean? And the last time they looked at that limiting belief as in, you know, women are out to get me, or all men are bastards, you know, because of this belief I had from when I was 8. The charge of that pulls me back into an 8-year-old version of myself. And it's strong enough, it has enough weight and pull and it's familiar enough to really derail. You know what I mean? Versus, like, you know, if you were to bring up something that happened, you know, a month or two ago, because I've attached I spent less of my life believing it's true, without having disproven it, it doesn't have the same weight or same charge. So I believe that it's these deeper emotions, limiting beliefs, traumas, stories that we have that we used to identify with, and we could have done a lot of work and become very, you know, evolved and conscious. But still, when we open up a new box, it still potentially has that possibility to pull us away. Now, if we've done work in business and in creativity and in friendships and, you know, money stuff, and we've worked on a number of areas, we've probably at that point learned, oh, remember I had that really gnarly limiting belief around money, and I've totally shifted it, but I was really in that for a while. So the more we dip into these different boxes and get pulled out of alignment but find our way back, means that when we finally open up, let's say, the purpose box or the you know, deep romantic relating box, it doesn't mean that we're now perfect, but just that our ability to come back to center and to not believe the feelings that box creates is much better. Like, we're much better able to find our way back. And so I believe that what you experienced in the last weeks, months, had you not already, you know, gone down this path so long and had so many tools, and even the network of people around you who are resonating because of what you've done and where you've got yourself to living here and the life you've created, if you were surrounded by, you know, a job and a group of people that didn't allow you to live in that place, then you would be held at that level, which is kind of another piece, actually, which is our environment. But, you know, I'd say that's probably a part B, the environment and who we're surrounding yourself with. Because you've got people say, hey, can you do a week work on these sales calls? Hey, you should check that out. Maybe that's trauma. Whereas if you were like living in a flat in London, probably the people around you might have a different, you know, conversation, and your view of reality might be different. So I think the boxes are really important to understand in our own relationship to getting pulled out and coming back, like training a muscle. Like, if I train, you know, bench press every day for 6 months, then I'm probably going to be pretty good at coming back and doing a bench press without thinking about it much. Whereas if I've not done a bench press ever, and I get pulled into doing a bench press, and it's like, holy shit, like, I can't do this, you know what I mean? Probably could come up with a better example of that, but it'll do for now. So to summarize that, I believe that we're training the muscle of coming back to alignment by exploring the different boxes, so that when we step into a totally new area or something that we've avoided because it never felt safe, it's not to say that we're not going to get pulled out, but it's more about our ability to come back to that center. And then also the environment as well, super important, to support that. You know?
For sure. Thank you. I love that. Because it's wonderful, isn't it? Because there's so many different ways that one can approach this. And I went down the Hare Krishna rabbit hole and the Hindu philosophy rabbit hole for a considerable amount of time. It was fascinating to me. And one of the things that I learned in that movement, studying that philosophy, was this concept of you were always serving something. And you were either serving Maya, the illusion of the material world, or you were serving God. And I think that that's quite a really nice, simple idea to come back to. It's, am I serving my ego? Am I serving sense gratification? Am I serving some unhealthy patterns?
Yeah.
Or actually, is this action, this decision to be in this relationship, to do this, to face the fear that I'm feeling in my business? You know, what's actually occurring here? Let's say the example of, okay, I want to launch my business. Fuck, I'm terrified. Okay, let's just tune in. Why do I want to launch this business? Whatever action is causing me this inertia. Well, hang on a second, who am I serving? Am I serving God or am I serving my ego here? You're serving your ego. Great, don't fucking do it. If you know, no, I'm serving God. Suddenly, for me, it opens up a whole nother way of being, and I think this is for me the insight that I keep coming back to. It's like, what's the simple story I can live by? And there's this other idea, which is, your intention behind something is everything, right? And so if your intention to act is to serve God, and you authentically believe that, then that action is perfect, no matter the outcome. And for me personally, that's quite a consoling ethical framework to navigate reality. Because what I get to do now, and what we all get to do, is, okay, shit, I'm feeling resistance. Well, let's just tune in. Okay, well, how do you tune in? Peace. You find peace. Finding peace is actually very simple. You can do it in 3 breaths. One of my mentors told me a few days ago, and it's so true. And from that place of peace, you then get to communicate with God. Or universe, Krishna, Yahweh, Allah, whatever you want to call he, she, or it. How do you know if you're talking to God? Another thing my mentor said to me a few days ago was simple. Are these thoughts, 2 things, are these thoughts filled with love for all, or are they filled with ego? It's quite easy to tune into that. The other one is, well, if I were to complete this action and I couldn't tell anyone about it or show it off, would I still want to do it? And then when you tune in, you kind of go, okay, am I doing this to serve? And if the answer is yes, then suddenly you know that you are co-creating with God. And he can create miracles. And so even if your mind, your limited mind, cannot think of and will not think of all the wonderful possibilities that can be created from you taking action in alignment with your fear, well, if you're doing it in alignment with God, you've got that big motherfucker on your side, And
he's got the hookups.
Yeah, and which means that no matter what, your action is perfect. Whether you succeed or not, you can tell yourself a story that was perfect. And I remember somebody once saying to me, he said, I have a look at these New Age spirit. There's a lot of New Age spiritual people in Bali. And I remember him saying a few years ago, he was like, it's all a bit bullshit. And and he was being, quite critical of it. And I said, maybe it is. But actually, if you think about it, maybe it's a more successful way to live reality. Because if you believe there's a higher power supporting you in your mission, well, then you can't lose. Because if it goes according to plan, divine will. If it doesn't go according to plan, divine will. It's like, that roadblock. It's like that Stoic idea of the obstacle is the way. Oh, there's an obstacle there. Napoleon Hill. What does he say? Every disadvantage contains a seed of equal or greater opportunity. So when you get to have a more positive spin on any roadblocks that occur, because you go, well, God's on my side, so he put that roadblock there. The obstacle is the way. There's a seed of equal or greater opportunity here. What is it? Let's find it. And
it's also bringing in self-responsibility then as well, because you're not saying, oh, Jesus, this thing's happened to me. It's like, all right, this is here for a reason. How can I step forward and move with it now?
Yes.
And work with it, instead of this basically inaction or a victim state that can often happen to people when they're faced with these challenges. Why me?
Thank you. For sure. 100%.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I'm coming back to. And I'm really grateful that I'm coming back to that. And, I can be a slow learner sometimes. I need to be derailed a little bit. And it's interesting, as you were saying as well, why do people come out of alignment? And oftentimes there is some sort of trauma that occurs that puts one out of alignment. And so for me, in my business, I may never be out of alignment, or maybe there's subtle movements. But maybe when it comes to romantic relationships, because of trauma around my heart, it might be easier for me to be out of alignment. My goodness me, I was in a relationship with a narcissist a few years ago. Fuck.
Lucky man.
So I had to, great sex. Great sex. But
that'll clear some stuff, yeah.
I mean, really, that was quite something. Anyway, but I had to go through that. There was something inside me that got to be healed within that.
Totally.
And, and that's the reality of the matter.
Because you created it.
100%.
You had
I
50%.
voted for that relationship every fucking day.
Yeah.
You know,
You were,
that I was in it.
you were gaining some benefit from that.
For sure.
Until the point that you weren't.
Yes, exactly.
And then you were like, oh, I really am gaining.
Exactly.
But at the same time, in taking self-responsibility, and it's an edgy one, because, like, you know, if someone's in let's say an abusive relationship or something, it can be hard to say, oh, you need to take responsibility. It can be seen as, like, you know, condescending or not, like, being real with the nature of that situation. But in self-responsibility comes freedom, comes power, because if I know I'm choosing my shitty life situation, whatever that may be, then I can change it as well, because I'm choosing it. Or at least if I want to continue sitting in it, then at least I know I'm doing it out of my own choice of will, or because the other options I'm faced with are less, like, oh, actually, it's not so bad, you know?
For sure.
It's empowering.
I agree.
I'm glad that you're choosing to co-create with God by coming on this podcast for free.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
He's got the bill.
Yeah. He was like, he goes, trust me, it's coming back to you, William. Don't worry about it. Hold on a second. No, he said, get the fuck out of here. I told you not to come.
Go.
I told you not to come. Leave, boy. No. The gimps on the way in were the giveaway. Yeah, you invited me, mate.
I've got
was always going to be silly.
One more question.
Oh wow, my goodness.
Let's end it on a powerful note. What is the dream that you have that you would like to see brought into fruition in your lifetime in the world?
Oh wow.
Like, you're offering your dream for what you can create in the world.
Thank you. I know exactly what that is. I know what it looks like right now, and I have been an entrepreneur long enough to know that every vision that I have just gets better with age. Where do I begin? And I'm also thinking how I approach answering this question. I think there's a revolution in mental health that is occurring. And I think coaches are playing a really huge role in this. And, you know, you hear this concept, at least I hear it very often, this idea of, I just want to raise the consciousness of the planet, man. And what does that mean exactly? And I think it means a lot of things. And I think there's multiple ways that someone can raise their consciousness. And, you know, I really resisted working with coaches exclusively for a very, very long time. And then I realized, hang on a second, look at what coaches are doing. Coaches are facilitators of self-actualization. Mm-hmm. And if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you know, it starts off, I need food and water and shelter and da-da-da, and then community, da-da-da. The top of the pyramid was self-actualization, which means the pursuit of becoming the best version of oneself. He later on, I only found out a few years ago, added a sixth stage, which is called transference, or transcendence, excuse me.
Transcendence, yeah.
And what that means is actually there's a higher stage of self-actualization, which is helping others to self-actualize.
Yes.
And really for me is, you know, there's a lot of power in the world that wants to hold on to their power. And I think going against them head on is potentially a losing battle, because you're playing with their game.
Totally.
But you can crumble their empire another way. And the way that you do that is by, if you look at the pyramid of hierarchy, well, what's the foundation? Is the everyday man. Now, if the everyday man stops becoming a slave to the matrix, should we say, as someone like Andrew Tate might say, I quite like that metaphor. And we're all slaves to the matrix in our own way. I know I certainly am. But actually, if you can emancipate the everyday man, the next question is, what does that mean? Suddenly you get to change the system from within. And you know, if you think about it, Freud was only 200 years ago. Mental health is pretty fucking brand new in the mainstream consciousness. You know, it wasn't very long ago that, and even still to this day, to say that you're seeing a therapist is pretty fucking taboo. Mm-hmm. How evolved is a society where seeing a therapist or mental health is seen as taboo? we are in our infancy when it comes, in my opinion, to the mind. And what is raising the consciousness of the planet other than creating more healthy ways of viewing the world? And there's many different models on this. Spiral dynamics, for example. You got, what was it, David Hawkins' Power versus Force, and he's got his pyramid of this.
Yes.
I'm certainly no expert on it, but what I've observed is that coaches actually are doing playing a huge role in helping people unplug themselves, tune in. I mean, for example, to give you a tangible example, imagine if every school child, or enough school children to reach critical mass, were taught conscious, effective communication, non-violent communication. Imagine that. Just imagine that. Imagine the revolution that would occur. Just some good communication. How many marriages fail because of bad communication? How many politicians, workforces, bosses, leadership, communication is everything. Human relationships is everything. Now that one seed, let's just say this one coach who was on a fucking mission to change communication for kids, let's say, and managed to get it taught in all schools in America, that one act alone would change the world.
Yeah.
Now imagine if you were to add things like, philosophy, critical thinking, entrepreneurship, creative problem solving, all these other things about personal growth, from meditation. I remember not very long ago talking about meditation. So many of my friends in London were like, that's such bullshit. What are you talking about? Like, such ignorance.
Yeah.
And so there's so many different levels of self-actualization that occur. Helping somebody shed their body weight in fat, if you're a personal trainer, is its own form of self-actualization and empowerment. And so really for me, my mission is to do everything in my power to support as many coaches as I possibly can. And I've just launched a community called Codes for Coaches, which is an online community. You can check us out at codesforcoaches.com. The website is not
no
yet.
affiliate fee.
no affiliate. No, I'm getting my money back, mate. And the idea behind that is, that our tagline is "Change lives, change the world."
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm all in on this.
Yeah.
I'm all in on this. I'm all in on coaching. It's the empowering the facilitators of self-actualization. And currently the way that I do that is by helping coaches become fully booked without having to use social media or paid ads. Check us out. Was that smooth?
Ding.
Yeah, ding.
Gotta get you a theme song for that.
Call that helpline below.
What was that line again? Fully booked without...
Fully booked without having to use social media or paid ads. Would you like to become fully booked without having to use
paid ads
or social media necessarily?
Co-creating with God on the Alive and Line podcast.
I'll be there with my bag for all your money.
Come join this pyramid scheme. We're going to change the world using old technologies, the pyramids, in a new way.
But secretly it's a cult. Thank you very much.
It's a good cult.
Yeah, it's a good cult.
Transcendent cult. You can revolutionize cults as well. You can actually make it like where you don't have to sleep with everyone in it.
What?
That's it, I'm in.
Yeah. Women only, by the way. So that's the vision that I work on currently. There's other bits and pieces, but that's really the central focus. And fundamentally, the one insight that I got is I'm not meant to be doing this alone. So I've already brought on a brilliant human being who's been on this podcast, actually. Can you guess who it is? A female.
Saza, is it?
Johanna.
Johanna.
Johanna. Yeah.
Yeah, she's great.
She's amazing. Cool. She's come on board.
Great.
Yeah. She's the first member of the Codes for Coaches community team.
Nice. Man. Episode 17 or 18 she was, yeah. Great, awesome, yeah, she's a legend.
Yeah. So that's what we're up to in the world, currently.
So you got some employees, you're building the rocket ship.
Building the empire.
It's great, love it, man.
Thank you.
Any final words for the folks back home, apart from a sales pitch of some sort?
There's no sales.
Do.
Do I have any words for the folks back home? My goodness, do I have any words for the folks back home? Yes, I do. Keep listening to this wonderful soul. He is, as you know, deeply wise, and his heart is in the right place. And share this and every episode with anybody that you know who is looking to live a more aligned life, because this man is one of the most aligned human beings that I know. I love him deeply. He's full of love. And this podcast is only going to get better and better and better and better and better. So share. And I'm sending you much love.
I fucking love that. And I didn't even pay him to say it.
No.
Come and join our cult. Mr. Griffin, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, my brother.
Pleasure.